Yeah.
I don't know how to start this off. So, I guess I'll open it with, everybody knows me, I'm 512 Mark DD.
You are.
From Radio Randomness.
Yes. Can I just call you Mark for the...
You can call me Mark.
Okay,
yes.
cool.
Yeah, that's
First name basis.
Yes. And I am here with Max Nunn.
Hello.
And some of you probably remember him because I started Radio Randomness with his stuff off of Florida Man. And he's got a new album coming out called The Butterfly Theory.
Yes.
For some reason I want to say Butterfly Effect, but I know that's wrong.
It makes sense. It's pretty much, it sounds a lot like a Travis Scott album. A good Travis Scott album. But he's got a pretty popular song called Butterfly Effect, so you're not the first person to call it that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was Butterfly Theory. I keep wanting to call it the wrong thing.
True.
But I know that
movie, right? Butterfly Effect.
Yeah. So, got a new album coming out on the 21st
Yes.
of May.
Yes.
So when this posts, came out yesterday.
Oh shit, dude, we're
in the future.
Is this what they meant by time zones?
Right?
Fuck.
So, I had a sneak peek of the album.
Yes.
I'm lucky enough to have heard it ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to talk to you about it just because there's been a lot of stuff that I want to talk about, but was kind of my first instinct was to text you and say, do this or do that. I was like, no, I'm going to wait to catch it all on the interview.
The content.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, the first thing I'm going to say, with listening to that versus when I first heard your stuff, the Florida Man off of SoundCloud, first off, and I told my wife this morning, every now and then, you're probably familiar with it too, but when people say, oh, I'm a musician or I do music or whatever, check out my stuff, you kind of always go into it, after a while anyway, you go into it with not expecting a whole lot until you hear it, because when you first meet people that are in music and they're giving you stuff, you kind of have a little bit high expectations and you're like,
True.
So I don't know where I was at when you said you're a musician and check out my stuff. It's like, okay, cool, I'll check it out. And that was like a year ago now, oddly enough. Can you believe it? And but when I first started playing the song off of SoundCloud off of Florida Man, I can't remember which one it was. At that time, I was like very surprised. I was like, wow, this stuff's really good. For what I was expecting, I was like, man, this stuff's really good.
Yeah.
And so I was surprised. I was like, I can't believe it's the dude I know, I work with, and this is what it sounds like. I was like, it was so very, very good. So, and then of course you told me you're working on this album. Couldn't wait for it to, start hearing some new stuff. So when I got this one and started listening to it, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to, other personal stuff, but I also wanted to postpone the interview a little bit to give me a little bit more time to really listen to it over and over and kind of digest it. But the first time I listened to it and put it on and listened to it the full way through, dude, you went from I'm going to say down here, even though this is not the bottom.
Right.
But you jumped so much with the way just the album is you can hear so much more kind of how you matured as an artist. There's so much. It just sounds so good. It sounds like I don't know what you've been doing, but I want to say improved, even though that's not a bad thing. It's you weren't bad to begin with, but you've grown. You're mastering your craft, and there's still, as good as this album is, I can still hear. So I was like, man, he hasn't even there's so much more potential there. Even my wife, when she was listening to me skim through it, she's like, that's really good. She's like, that's really, and my wife doesn't listen to this type of music, but catching bits and pieces here and there, she's like, wow, that's really good.
Thank you.
So, and that's a lot coming from someone like my wife too. So, I'll start off with that. I was like, very, very impressed.
Thank you.
And I can still hear so much more potential from you as an artist. And so I'm very, very happy to be where I'm at to say like just kind of like heard your stuff and kind of listened to you and just to be able to sit back and continue to watch you.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Blow up. So one day when you're like up there, I can say, dude, I was
first interview.
Yeah, I was listening to him from the start.
It's definitely a step up from Florida Man. It was like Florida Man. It's not just like a collection of singles that you can like shuffle and play in any order. Like there's definitely a flow to maybe not the extended version of the album, but like there's there's a clear flow of momentum throughout like the first 11 tracks, like the main Florida Man songs. But while they like cover similar themes, it didn't really feel like a fully realized album. It was just like a bunch of songs that my favorite ones that I made in that period.
Yeah.
Whereas the Butterfly Theory is just this whole cohesive narrative. Like it's all I made outline after outline of like what I wanted to say on each song, and just the kind of atmosphere I wanted it to have.
Uh-huh.
And I definitely, it's more cohesive, more solid, and a lot more personal than Florida Man.
Yeah, you can catch that. So when I listened to it, I don't know if it was something that you kind of did purposefully or not, but it definitely has. One of my favorite thing about it is I love when you listen to albums that you can listen to beginning to end, and it flows so nicely that anytime you want to listen to the album or listen to a song off the album, it's like, well, I gotta listen to the whole thing. Like even though I want to listen to this song, I want to start from the beginning and listen to the whole thing. So your album is one of those for me anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like, even though I have a song stuck in my head, it's like, well, I gotta start from the beginning so I get the whole effect.
Yeah, I intended for it to be like that. I hope that anybody who listens to it for the first time, just like start to finish, no skips, no distractions, none of that. That being said, there are a lot of songs you could totally just take out of context and like party.
Definitely.
Like, Suburban Trap Lord, like. It is part of the narrative, but like, let's be real, I needed a banger. So like, that's you could totally just play Suburban Trap at any party, I wanted to have a few songs that you could still just like, listen to with your friends and just start getting a little rowdy.
Right. For sure, definitely.
Yeah.
So you had a couple. You've had at least 2, 3 singles. So far, newer ones?
Well, 4 new ones, but then in the last 6 months, I was putting out like a song a month, but 2 of them were just songs from Florida Man that were never on streaming services, and now they are. So like, if you count those 6, but yeah, little singles leading up.
So that was one thing that I kind of, I guess, wanted to ask you about, because I was little when I listened to. Oh shoot! Now I forgot this song. I forgot the name of the song.
The most recent one?
It's one of the most recent ones.
Chemicals?
Not Chemicals. It's before that.
Strictly Business.
No. It's the one where it's like you.
Was it Insecure?
Yes. Insecure.
Oh, that was the first one.
Yeah. So it's like when you said you had a new single or whatever, and I listened to that, I was surprised that wasn't on the album, because typically. True. Artists will do that. So it wasn't like, it's like, well, I guess that was just a single. It wasn't like a single off the album.
Right.
So that was the idea with those singles.
Just what was the idea with them?
Yeah, you were just individual songs, but not off the album.
Yeah. They so my initial plan was to do kind of another Florida Man, but just exploring different themes. Like it would have been a lot less focused. So just I started making a few songs for that, and I just like as I had a few of them already done, I was like, I'm not as passionate about whatever this is gonna be than I would be about the Butterfly Theory, because like I knew I was gonna make that after this like second mixtape. And I just felt like I was basically doing some shit to like build up more fan base, I guess. Yeah. But I was like, why would I do that? Like I just want to make what I want to make. So I
Exactly.
you know, I had these songs, and I you know, it had been at the point where it's like, okay, Florida Man dropped a year ago. I still haven't dropped anything. I'm gonna just start putting out the singles and kind of just led up to the album. You know, my plan was just go one per month, and then yeah, you know, it eventually just kind of led into the album pretty nicely. I was tempted to take a couple songs here and there off of the album out of the context of the album and just like also drop those as like the last, you know, one or two singles. I totally could have done that, although you know, I'd rather just drop the whole thing as its, you know, its own experience. Yeah, you know, just not give any of that away until like, you know, the whole thing comes out. Yeah.
Is there any particular song on the album that you would deem the single?
So Suburban Trap Lord would be the pretty easy candidate. I also could have put Goodbye out there, because you know, it's like, it's one of those that's like further down the album, so like it's less likely that people are gonna, you know, make it to the end of the album than they would hear like the first few songs. So
I don't know about that.
I don't know. I mean,
I think most people would probably
necessarily
start from the beginning and just like, because there is, I don't know if it's just me and just like, you know, liking your stuff and then knowing you personally and stuff like that, but the way I listen to any music, especially if I'm going to buy an album or listen to the whole album, is
like
I always want to start from the beginning.
Yeah.
I want to listen it through.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then there are certain albums that almost demand that when you start from the beginning. It's like, okay, I got to see where this goes. It's like watching a movie or anything else. Like, even if the album isn't telling a story, you still want to. It draws you in, and your album at least had that appeal to me personally.
Sure. That's how I do it as well, but you know, understanding. I kind of have to understand that I'm like a local artist, so it's not like, you know, like if Tyler the Creator drops an album and it's like, it's, you know, high concept, it's a story from start to finish. It's like, I know I and a lot of my friends are gonna like, you know, we're just gonna listen to start to finish, no skips. But in my position, it's, you know, I gotta like keep people's attention through all 14 tracks. So I know that like the majority of people would start from the beginning, but I might lose a lot of people on that first track, and they're, you know, like the Real Death might end up being the most popular song on this album just for that reason alone. So my idea with Goodbye as a single is, you know, it'd be from like further down the album, people would, you know, kind of see that there's like some still some really great stuff at the end of the album, and just put all the cool songs up top. And also, if you take that song out of context of the album, it can kind of, it sounds sort of like a breakup song in a way, you know, like it could, I mean, it really just sounds like a breakup song, even though like the second verse is me like talking about my dad and shit. But yeah, you know, you don't really get that full experience unless you have like the whole context of the album. So it would either be that or Suburban Trap Lord if I were gonna put a single out.
Cool.
Yeah.
And this has been what, a year in the making? Longer than that?
A little longer than that, because there was like I started. I'm trying to think of the timeline here. I know it's a little longer than that. For a couple months, I was working on the it was on the singles that were gonna be part of like some second mixtape. But that I kind of scrapped that whole project and just kept the songs that I had pretty quickly. So it's like a little over a year in the making. Yeah.
What's the normal process when you have a song that you need to get out?
Oh, like are you talking about like for promotion, like once it's done? Or?
No, like your writing process and creative process.
Oh, well, so like for like a single or for album songs?
Just in general.
So for singles, I mean for any of them, it's, you know, like find a beat on YouTube, buy the lease for that, and you start writing, you kind of figure out what you want to say. For albums, it's a lot more like in depth. I have a whole outline of what I want to say on each song. I kind of for this one I ask myself questions about like the experience I'm talking about in any given song. Kind of answered those questions